going to be tying up a nice parachute dry fly. I'm going to keep it super simple. We're just going to do the post. Not going to be doing anything with the body, tail, any of that. So finer things you're going to need to know. You're going to start your thread 2 eyes behind the eye. So you see that? I go a little bit back just so I have a good strong thread base. And I'm going to be using Nature Spirits poly yarn. And when you take this out, if you look at it, you can kind of see how it's splitting apart. There's already, looks like there's 2 pieces going together. So what I do is I'll separate them like so. And then what I do next is I'll pull it tight, real tight, and you got all this extra fray on the end. So I take a lighter, just trim it down, wet my fingers, pinch it clean. So now they're all tight together. And then I'll do the same thing on the other side. I'll pull it tight to about the length I want, probably 2.5 inches long. Cut it. Again, pull it tight so it all together. Trim that back. Wet your fingers. Pinch it. Only reason I wet my fingers is so I don't burn them. So you got your thread started. Do a couple twists of your bobbin to tighten your thread. You don't want flat wraps for this part. So then you're going to lay it down, pull it tight. You constantly want to pull poly yarn tight, because if you don't, it kind of goes back in this position and it makes it a lot sloppier. It doesn't stay on top of the hook. So pull it tight, pull it tight. Take your thread, 1, 2, 3. These are loose wraps. And you come back around and pull up. And that's going to pull it right on top of the hook shank. So you can see I got split up into 2 parts. Then I pull this up together. Tighten your thread again. You don't really want a lot of flat wraps when you're building a good foundation on your post, because you want the strength. So then you just start wrapping low at the base where your thread, your poly yarn meet, and you just want to build up a real tight base. So this is your foundation of your post. You're going to be going up the poly yarn once you have this solid. So I got a nice little thick punch there. So this is something I've found, especially if you use nano silk. I'm not using nano silk, but even just your regular thread, what I'll do is I'll flip it up, and I take some UV resin. I'm using Solarez Thin, and what I'll do is I'll put a very small dab at the base of it, and then I'll take let it sit on there so gravity can take over, and then just do a couple wraps. So this is going to keep your post from sliding around, because when you start to build up your post, you're going to be putting a lot of tension on it, because you want everything really tight. So your hackle has a very smooth, clean base to write on. Usually what happens is people have a very textured base of thread, and you don't want that. You want it to be as clean as possible. It's basically like you're trying to mimic wrapping your thread around the hook to have a perfectly flat body for your hackle to wrap on. And with flat bodies, when you wrap your hackle, it's very clean. So as I'm coming up the post, I'm touching thread. So every wrap, I'm just doing one thread above the last. You just keep working your way up. Doesn't matter if your thread's flat. I prefer it's not, because this is all about building up strength for your hackle to be wrapped on. You see I'm building up. Now, if you want it to look very clean. It's going to be a little bit higher because what we're going to do with a hackle is we're going to remove half of the fibers so they can stack on top of each other without bunching up. So you're going to need a little bit more definition in your post. So you want to come down your post. It doesn't have to be flat wraps or anything like that. You just want to be coming down evenly. If you see a little bit of unevenness in your post, you can fill it in. You're just going to come down to the bottom. And this is an important part. Grab your hackle that you want to use. I'll be using Whiting Farms saddle hackle. You're going to want your hackle to be about the top of your hook. And what you're going to do with your hackle, as you can see, there's two sides. And then what you're going to do is you're going to strip it off. You're going to strip off one side. You're going to want to go a little bit further in the amount of hackle you think you'd use, because you're really using half what you normally would. So I just pull off a good chunk of it. Okay, so we got a nice stretch. So if I have extra, that's fine. It's better to have more than less. And then you're going to strip a little bit off the end. You're going to want to go a little bit higher. A little bit higher than your post. Okay, you're going to take your thread and you're going to secure it right in front of your post. Okay, just right in front of it. And you're going to hold it up and you're going to start going around right at the base, touching wraps up. Doesn't have to be as perfect as when you came up the post. You just want a nice clean thread base again. This is really the most important part, is making sure your thread is perfect for your hackle to wrap around. Alright, now this is going to be your cleanup time. If you see any points in your post that are not perfect or have little indentations, you want to make sure your thread hits all those points. So I think we are good on that. Now if you wanted to do a thorax, like some Peacock herl, this would be your time to put it in. Now you got everything down. So what I'll do is I'll just throw some Peacock herl in, just because it's easy. So a Peacock herl, I just find the ends, pull it to top, snip it off so they're even. Just tie a little bit in. So this is not a very durable material, so that's why I usually use 2 or 3. And I'll twist them together as I wrap it, just to add some strength. So when you're wrapping it up, send your thread around it 2 or 3 times. Cut off. All right, now all you got left is wrapping your hackle around. So you can either have your hackle pointing up or down. I like it pointing down, but ideally if you have this perfectly flat, your hackle will just stick straight out regardless. So as I'm making my wraps, I pull up on this a little bit and you want it to land right where your thread is. And then you just do touching wraps all the way down. You want your hackle to blend in as one central piece. So you just keep wrapping around. And this is why I like saddle hackle, because it's nice and long, gives you something to hold as you're going around. With capes, everything is a little bit shorter normally, and they're not as even. So this way, get it all the way around. Once you get to the base, I'll take my thread and just wrap it around 1, 2, 3 times, and then just clip that piece off. And this is another important part. I whip finish upside down with this, and in order to do that, you just pull this tight, and then just go a little bit down. You got a nice puff. And then I just take my whip finish tool, and how I whip finish upside down, just take it, flip it around, just go around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 times, and then just pull it through. Pull your hackle a little bit, or your thread tight. Slide your scissors in, twist it. And there you go. There's your post.